I feel like the beginning I feel like the beginning of these webinars is always so awkward because the system is speaking to me. So, hey everybody, I am so excited for tonight's webinar. We are going to nerd out about nutrition and vitamins and minerals, and we're going to talk about energy production and just, oh, it's going to be such a good talk. I really worked on this one. I really sat and thought about what I want for you guys. I want you guys to really feel comfortable with formulating and understanding what the different vitamins do. And I'm just excited to get started tonight. Okay, so we're going to be talking about why am I so tired? If you've been in the game for a while, which I've been practicing for 14 years, you are going to have patients that are coming to you and they are just exhausted. They are so fatigued. They are so worn down. And let's be honest, there could be a variety of different reasons. But tonight, I really want to zoom in on particularly ATP production and cellular respiration. So that's going to be the focus for tonight. And we're going to be looking at different micronutrient deficiencies. And I want you guys to feel really comfortable where it just rolls off your tongue in terms of the different vitamins and what they do and how they play a role in energy production. So that's my goal for tonight, and we're going to get it done. Okay, so hey, I'm Dr. Lydia. I'm a naturopath here at Vitamin Lab, but above all, I'm a clinician. I've been working for 14 years. I still see patients, even though I have this role at Vitamin Lab. And I love my job because I get to work with you guys. I get to work with so many different practitioners. I get to hear from you. We work on cases together. We formulate products together. And I just love hearing what you guys are up to and what you're doing. And it's just very, very fun for me. And I love doing these webinars usually it's the last Thursday of the month, but this one was a little thrown off schedule-wise, but usually last Thursday of the month, we do our monthly check-in. I usually cover a topic, and tonight we're talking about fatigue and tiredness. Okay, so let's talk about this. So the Great Exhaustion. This was a title that came up in an Atlantic article, and I really just appreciated the simplicity of it because 72% of Americans said they feel tired at least 3 days per week. So this is an absolute epidemic. And if we are able to help people with fatigue and tiredness, well, hallelujah, because the heavens just open up when you feel like you're waking up with vitality and energy. And we've all been there. We've all had tired times as healthcare providers. We've all been burnt out, let's be honest. And we know what it feels like to drag through life. And we have patients who are just, they may come to us with high blood pressure issues, or maybe their mental health issues, or, they may come to us with different things, but so many of our patients are tired a lot of the time. 3 days per week, that's almost half your life you're dragging through. So if we are able to really whittle down, get to the core of these issues and facilitate energy production, particularly at a cellular level, well, kudos to us, okay? Because we're really moving the needle on a health concern. Like imagine anything else, like headaches 3 days per week or something. That would be national news that people are experiencing headaches 3 days per week, 72% of Americans. So this is a major, major issue that I don't think is being really talked about because a lot of people kind of cover up how tired they really feel. A lot of us are probably covering up how tired we really feel. So tonight, I'm not discussing sleep. I'm not discussing thyroid, and I'm not discussing anemias. And it's not that these are not important contributors to fatigue and energy. Certainly they are. But, I have to focus my topic, basically, right? So I'm going to cover these topics at a later date. We can dive into those. But for tonight, I'm going to really focus on, again, ATP production, cellular respiration, what's happening in the mitochondria. I want us to get really clear on the nutritional biochemistry so that if a patient has a question, they want to know what vitamin B2 does, it just rolls off your tongue, you know exactly what to say. So that's what we're talking about tonight. So we're doing a deep dive on the nutrients required to produce ATP because I don't want this to be you. Okay, so again, I talk to a lot of practitioners, and what I don't want is a patient to get back their micronutrient results and they're looking at their paper and they say, oh, I'm low in vitamin B1, I'm low in vitamin B2. Doctor, what does vitamin B1 do? What's the difference between vitamin B1 and vitamin B2? I don't want you to be the deer in headlights where you're not really too sure what these vitamins do. Like, and I know that we've all had nutrition class before, so I know, and we can look it up, we can chat GPT, we can find it, that's fine. But I want this to be really natural for you. I want you to feel really comfortable with these nutrients as we're prescribing them and as we're formulating products. So I don't want you to be the deer in headlights when a patient gets back a result and they ask you a question about a certain nutrient. I want you to know what to say, particularly as it relates to energy production. Because also, in talking to Amy Pietzarka from CSS, love her, love Amy, love all the CSS people. She said fatigue is actually the #1 reason why people run micronutrient panels. So there's that. Okay, so in a perfect world, our patients are eating all these nutritional foods. They are, there's all their fatty acids, they're getting their fiber, they're getting their nutrients, they're getting their spices, their ginger, their turmeric. In a perfect world, this is what people are eating, right? Like, but when pigs fly, we will no longer need to run nutrient tests. When our soils are no longer depleted of nutrients, we will no longer need to run nutrient tests. But until that time frame happens, thank goodness we have the tests from CSS. We have that micronutrient analysis. Also this, I think it's very important to remember that in North America, people are overfed but undernourished. So people have an excess of calories, but a deficiency of nutrients. And there's such an interesting link between obesity and micronutrient deficiencies, both contributing to obesity and insulin resistance, but also being a result of obesity and insulin resistance. So we can never forget that even though our society is eating all kinds of food, we got food. I'm in Toronto. I've got any food I could possibly want, I have it here. But a lot of people are undernourished. They do not have the micronutrients that they need to produce an appropriate amount of energy. And only 1 in 10 adults, this is research from 2024, so this is very, very recent, only 1 in 10 adults is getting enough fruits and veggies. And it's not to say that we can't obtain nutrients from like a carnivore diet, meat. I'm not going to go there, but you know, we can get nutrients from other places, but the vast majority of us, our minerals and vitamins are coming from fruits and vegetables. So we know that we just know, we know our patients are not getting these nutrients. We know that. Which is why we have this wonderful, wonderful test from Cell Science Systems. I don't know how, to me, it's just like a magical test, and it's so helpful to be able to pinpoint and to be able to target, okay, what are the nutrients that my patient actually needs? I'm not going to prescribe them just a multivitamin. I'm actually going to dig in, dive down and figure out, okay, what are these nutrients? What do people need? I'm not going to overprescribe something people don't need, and I'm not going to underprescribe and miss key nutrients that people could possibly really benefit from. Okay, I always like to bring it back to our patients and how they're experiencing a disease process or a health process, because really it's not just, okay, people are tired, okay, whatever, but what does it mean to really experience life as a tired person? You'll see, I'm very visual. I really think in pictures. So for starters, it means people lack motivation. There can be a physical tiredness. You have to walk up a flight of stairs. You're coming from the subway or the train and you're exhausted at that time, walking up the stairs. It could mean there's a cognitive load, a cognitive burden that feels too much. You're not performing in the way that you know that you could. You're not really living up to your intellectual potential. There could be a sensitivity to environmental things. Like I'm in the city, there's constant construction noise and just busyness and people talking, and like there can be a real, when you're tired, just everything bothers you more. And that can be very impactful. You can have a very sort of negative reaction to how you're experiencing life. You're just sensitive. We've all been there where we're overtired and we're just sensitive. And we can have a lot of memory loss. We can feel kind of disorganized, or like you're introduced to somebody and you forget their name, and then you have to meet them again. And you're like, was this Sally or was this Susan? I can't really remember, right? And you have that awkward moment. So, and a lot of people are kind of freaked out. Like I see it in my perimenopause population when they're experiencing brain fog and they're forgetting where they left their keys and stuff. It's very frustrating and very kind of, it can be sort of almost scary. Like it's like, what's going on with my brain? So like there's memory loss, and then there's relationship trauma that happens when people are very exhausted. Like you lack empathy. Probably the #1 sign of burnout, and I can see it in myself too, I'll just be honest with you, is I start losing empathy. I'm just not as nice of a person. I can't relate to other people as well when I'm burnt out. And this is a sign of burnout, is when you're exhausted, you're just not that sweet, loving person that you really, really are deep inside your heart, because you're so tired. So it can result in tremendous burdens and strains on relationships. So we're not just talking about, oh, people are tired and okay, let's prescribe some nutrients and stuff like that. If we're able to move the needle on people's fatigue, we're really able to help them experience life in a better way. So go us. Yay us for like figuring this out, right? Okay, so let's talk about a case study. I always like to relate this again back to patients that we're all seeing. We're all seeing these types of people. Okay, so let's talk about Janine. She's age 45, okay? She's recently been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And she comes to you and she says, you're talking about energy and fatigue. And she says, I honestly cannot remember a time when I felt energetic. And we have patients like this where they just go through life tired. They've been tired. They came out of the womb tired. They've been tired since they were in kindergarten. They've never known a good degree of energy. And like, I can picture some patients that I have on my roster, and it makes me feel like I can get emotional if I really think about it, because these are such beautiful, wonderful people with so much potential and intelligence, and just they're just fantastic people, and they're just so tired. And so if we can help them with this, like, more power to us. She's janitorial staff in a hospital setting. And I added this point because it's very important for us to consider environmental factors and toxins that could be contributing to somebody's fatigue. So if somebody is experiencing a lot of chemical exposure, that's going to be a burden on their mitochondrial systems. That's going to be a burden on their liver to detoxify. I know we all hate that word, but it is what it is. So, she's a janitorial staff member, so she's constantly bombarded with toxic chemicals. So we know that there's a burden there, and no wonder she's tired. And she says, I know I'm supposed to exercise and eat well, but I'm just too exhausted. So I would say when people are just getting started in the functional medicine space, probably the number one mistake that like a newbie, like somebody new in the space would make, is recommending these exercise prescriptions and these nutrition prescriptions and not taking into account, does this person have the energy to execute on what you're advising? Are they coming home from work and they just want to lie flat on their back and watch Netflix because they are so tired? Do they wake up in the morning and need 2 cups of coffee to even like be alert and awake and present with people? Well, that person is not going to the gym at 6 a.m. They are not coming home and meal prepping quinoa salads because they are tired. They are ordering Uber Eats. They are exhausted. So before we try to develop these lofty treatment plans, let's meet our patients where they're at. And if they are tired, let's get them untired so that we can move forward in a way that really is sustainable for them. And we're not just, there's no worse experience for our patient when they pay all this money to come and see us and we do a treatment plan and they simply cannot do it because they are so tired. So we're keeping that in mind. So these are the types of patients that we're dealing with. Janine, like I see Janine's, I've been seeing Janine's for years, basically, right? Okay, let's talk about this. This is a very, very important diagram. I use a lot of diagrams, and I don't want you to get overwhelmed with the visuals here, where I'm going to break down everything. It's going to be very, very easy for you to understand. I know you guys can get this very, very easily. Okay, so insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes. Before you end up in that insulin resistant state with type 2 diabetes, what comes first is mitochondrial dysfunction. Probably for years and years, our type 2 diabetic patients have had mitochondrial energy dysfunctions for years. So when we are prescribing these nutrients, when we're running our micronutrient panels, the CNA panel, it's not just that we're running micronutrient panels just to be cool. Like, we're not doing this to be one of the cool kids and just be cutting edge. Like, we are doing this because we are trying to prevent the end products of having mitochondrial dysfunction for a long period of time. So some people may have DNA mutations in their mitochondria. Fine. So their mitochondria isn't functioning at peak levels. Fine. We can have acetylation products. So acetylated chemicals basically deactivate enzymes. So if you have an enzyme that's running as it's supposed to be, if it gets acetylated, it stops it stops the function. So we can have acetylation products, and we can have environmental toxins, right? We're talking about Janine, who's a janitor, so she's exposed to different chemicals. So all of these cause mitochondrial dysfunction that ends up with insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. So really what we're doing is we're getting to the core. If we can prescribe targeted nutrients to help people with their mitochondria, well, you know what? When we're talking about root cause medicine, this is it, okay? I'm taking B vitamins for energy. How many times? Oh my gosh, how many times have we heard patients say, I'm taking B vitamins for energy? Fine, great, okay, cool, but what does that mean? We need to know what B vitamins do. We need to know how B vitamins produce energy, which is the point of the talk tonight, okay? Because at the end of this talk, you're going to know what B vitamins are involved in energy production, and you'll be able to rattle this off. This is my goal for you tonight. Okay, so we're going to be getting nerdy tonight, and I personally love nutritional biochemistry. I understand that may not be for everybody, so if it's not for you, like this may not be the talk, you can sign off. I won't take it personally. I won't. But we're going to talk about the Krebs cycle because B vitamins are involved in the Krebs cycle. And we're going to talk about the electron transport chain inside our mitochondria. I love this. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this thing. Okay, so we're going to be nerding out about this. And at the end of the talk, again, you're going to know what B vitamins or minerals, we're going to talk about a few things. You're going to know exactly what processes they're involved in terms of energy production. It's going to be so easy for you guys. I know you're going to understand this. Because at the end of the day, okay, our energy currency is adenosine triphosphate. It's ATP, all right? And I think it's very important to understand this molecule and understand, again, I love nutritional biochemistry so much. So, okay, so why is ATP an energy molecule? What makes it special? What makes it an energy currency? I'd like to please bring your attention to these negatively charged oxygen molecules. We know that negative charges or positive charges, any similar charge, will repel each other. They can't wait to get away from each other. So these negatively charged molecules are just sitting there attached to each other with in this phosphate group, this triphosphate group, and they're sitting there and they just can't wait to break free. As there's so much energy potential there because these phosphate molecules are negatively charged. You have a chain of them that are just there and they hate each other. They're repelling each other and they can't wait to break free. So as soon as that bond is broken, we're generating tremendous amounts of energy. Also thermodynamically, their ATP, once you've broken apart a molecule, you're driving up the entropy. I don't know if you guys remember entropy from chemistry class. Some of you will remember this. Entropy is the propensity for a system to become chaotic. There's go from order to chaos. So it's you coming home from work, sitting on your couch, and your house is a darn mess. Okay, that is entropy. It's the chaos, and it takes some energy input to clean up your house. So our systems always want to go from order to chaos. So this bond here, the ATP bond, it's very ordered, but naturally it wants to go to chaos. So in breaking those phosphate bonds, we're not only releasing these negatively charged ions that really want to get away from each other, we're also increasing the entropy or chaos in the system, and that is what produces a tremendous amount of energy. So that is what ATP is, and that is why it's an energetic molecule. I hope that makes sense. I try to use analogies. I do my best. Okay, so let's get into our B vitamins. Okay, I'm going to tell you the form of vitamin that's the most active, and we're going to go over the RDA just so that you have a concept in your mind about how much of this vitamin I need. And I want to kind of have something that sort of rattles off the tongue in terms of like, what does this vitamin do? B1, okay? Benfotiamine is the most active form of this vitamin. Why? Because it's fat soluble. It's taking thiamine, which is very water soluble, and making it fat soluble. That benfo, it's a vitamin C derivative. It makes it fat soluble, which helps it dissolve through the phospholipid bilayer that's in your digestive tract. So that's why benfotiamine is the easiest absorbed form of thiamine. The RDA, 1.2, 1.1 milligrams. You don't need a lot of this vitamin. You really don't. You need enough to target and correct deficiency, but it's not something that you need to dose at 100 milligrams. You don't need that. So thiamine helps your body use sugar and protein for energy. If somebody asks you what thiamine does, that's what it does. This is thiamine here. Thiamine, thia is coming from the sulfite group right here. That's sulfur. Thia is sulfur. And you'll see this over and over and over again. And you saw it with the ATP as well. You'll see this phosphate group. When you see that phosphate group, you see these negatively charged ions. Ooh, you know there's an energy reaction ready to happen there, right? Because those bonds are ready to break, or they're ready to bond with something. They're ready to bond with a hydrogen ion and become stable. So anytime you see this phosphate group on a vitamin, I want you to think about that almost like a docking station, like you're plugging your iPhone in or something like that, because this phosphate group is very reactive. It can release energy, but it also attracts. It will act like if there's an enzyme that's trying to function, if thiamine attaches, it will dock there. That's where it will attach to the enzyme. So this is what thiamine looks like. Now you know. Okay, where is thiamine? Where do we use thiamine? Okay, so we use it in a few different places. Firstly, we can use it in the pentose phosphate cycle. So this ribose 5-phosphate here, what that is when your liver is breaking down glycogen, when it's breaking down the glucose that it's stored, like when we think about fatty liver and having too much sugar kind of in your liver, thiamine helps with that process to break down sugars in your liver. It also helps with pyruvate, bringing pyruvate into the citric acid cycle, into the Krebs cycle. So thiamine really, it also drives the citric acid cycle. So you can see thiamine it's helping bring glucose from your liver into the citric acid cycle for metabolism and energy production. And it also facilitates pyruvate entering into the mitochondria to help with this energy cycle. So this is what thiamine does. It also, if you're in a fasted state, like in a fasted state where you're breaking down protein, where you're catabolizing your muscles, essentially, it will facilitate that process too. Not ideal. We don't really want to be using protein for energy. Ideally, we're not doing that, but that's what thiamine does as well. So we can see here that thiamine brings energy, brings glucose or brings protein into the citric acid cycle in order to run that cycle, essentially, to generate energy, to generate FAD, NAD, and ultimately ATP. So now you know what thiamine does. Riboflavin. Okay, vitamin B2. Active form, riboflavin 5-phosphate. Again and again, you will see these phosphate groups. They are the key to so much of nutritional biochemistry. That phosphate group is it's really badass. It's really, it's what's attaching to things. It's what's running processes. So riboflavin 5-phosphate, that's active. That phosphate group, very active. 1.3 milligrams, 1.1 milligrams, similar to thiamine. We don't need crazy high doses. A milligram of that is fine. Riboflavin is an energy carrier. And this is why I'm so excited to talk to you guys tonight about the difference between the B vitamins, so that you know this stuff, because vitamin B1 is not the same as vitamin B2. They do different things. Okay, so riboflavin, this is what riboflavin looks like. We have some nitrogenous bases. We have these hydroxyl groups. Okay, cool. Flavin mononucleotide. Okay, we're seeing that phosphate group over and over again, telling you guys that phosphate group, that's where it's at with these vitamins. And FAD, okay, flavin adenine dinucleotide, okay? You'll see this phosphate group. If this molecule is going to react with something, this phosphate group has a lot of energy potential there. So we're activating the riboflavin, but you can see, when it comes to FAD, riboflavin is really the background. Okay, so what's FAD? Let's get into that, okay? You know this stuff. This is a review for you guys, but FAD, so we're looking at the citric acid cycle. Okay, I like to think of the citric acid cycle. Have you ever seen like a wheel where it's almost like metal on metal and like sparks are flying off? That's how I want you to think about the Krebs cycle. So as it's cycling through, it's like these energy sparks are flying off. And FAD, flavin adenine dinucleotide, is one of those energy sparks. So this is riboflavin. It's right here, guys. It's an energy carrying molecule. So we use NAD and FAD to generate energy, but you can see that vitamin B1 wasn't doing this job. Vitamin B1 was more involved in bringing in energy into the cycle, but FAD is actually a functioning, it's an energy carrying molecule. That's, if somebody asks you what riboflavin does, that's what you say, energy carrying molecule. It's very important in terms of the electron transport chain. So we can see FAD is here, it's right here. That's what our riboflavin is doing. Now you know, vitamin B2, it's right there. Niacin, okay. Niacin causes flushing, niacinamide doesn't. Those are the main differences, okay? So you're gonna usually choose niacinamide. Most people do not want to flush. I don't know, in naturopathy school, they made us all try niacin so that we flushed. I don't know if any of you guys have tried flushing niacin before. It feels like you have like a prickly, weird, like sunburn almost. It's very, it doesn't last long, but it's an interesting thing too. And it's so, I just love chemistry so much because it's so cool. There's like just a little bit of difference. I'll show you guys what I mean. But it completely different in the body in terms of how you experience it. So the RDA here, 16 milligrams, 14 milligrams. So B1 and B2, we're looking around like a milligram dose, like in niacin, a little bit more, a little bit higher dose. Niacin, also an energy carrier. So vitamin B2 and vitamin B3 are your energy carriers, okay? So nicotinamide, okay, so this is no flush niacin. This is flush niacin. Isn't it crazy how just this little nitrogenous base right here versus this hydroxyl group, that's the difference. It's only a little difference. And one of them, you feel like you're sunburnt and on fire, and the other one, you can take it till the cows come home and you'll never feel anything. So nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide is our energy carrying molecule, and you'll see the niacin right here, and it's right here. Niacin is an essential component of this energy carrying molecule. And what do we have again? Phosphate groups. Always the phosphate groups, telling you guys these negatively charged low oxygen molecules, they're the docking station. Positively charged elements of an enzyme will dock with or bond with these negatively charged ions on these different energy molecules, and a reaction will occur. Or what will happen is these phosphate groups get cleaved, right? Similar to ATP, you cleave these phosphate groups and you release you increase entropy and you release energy. So that's the importance of these energy carrying molecules. It's all right there, all that potential. NAD, niacin adenine dinucleotide, right here in our citric acid cycle. Now we know what vitamin B3 does. It's right there. Vitamin B2 is here. Vitamin B3 is here. It's an energy carrying molecule. Somebody asks you, what does vitamin B3 do? You know exactly what to say. It's right here too in our electron transport chain. Energy carrying molecule. You can see it gets cleaved right here to release a hydrogen ion. So this would be the reduced form, having the hydrogen ion attached. This is the oxidized form, having the hydrogen ion removed. And that's what niacin is. Now you know. Now we know. NAD is really important. I think of NAD and ATP as like cousins. And like as we are bringing in macronutrients, we will produce NAD, we will reduce NAD and produce ATP as well. And as we're building macromolecules, if we want to build protein, or we're making fat cells, or we don't really make fat cells, but as we're making fatty acids or carbohydrate chains, glycogen, for example, we're going to be using NAD. So really niacin's very, very important because it's this energy carrying molecule that's involved both as we bring in nutrients, we will use niacin to create an energy carrying molecule. And as we are creating substances in our body, we will be utilizing NAD as well to facilitate that process. So now you know, vitamin B3, energy carrying molecule. B5. Okay, it's interesting. There's no B4. Did you guys notice that? There's no B4. That's adenosine is actually our adenine. Adenine is actually B4, but our body can make it. So they decided it's not a vitamin. Vitamins are essential nutrients that we need to consume. Vitamin B5, calcium pantothenate for stability and absorption. Okay, we're talking active forms again. We're talking optimal forms. Calcium pantothenate. Okay, so calcium, that little molecule, we have a lot of receptors in our gut for calcium to absorb nutrients. So basically what happens is we attach the pantothenate molecule, vitamin B5, to calcium, and your body picks up the calcium, and whoop, vitamin B5 kind of sneaks in alongside the calcium. So that's why we're using that form. RDA, 5 milligrams. So vitamin B1 and B2 were around a milligram. Vitamin B3, we're looking at like 14, 16 milligrams, somewhere in there for an RDA, recommended daily allowance, which will correct deficiency in about 98.5% of the population. That's what the RDA is set at. So vitamin B5 is kind of in the middle. It's about 5 milligrams. Vitamin B5 starts the energy production cycle. It's amazing how important these vitamins are. Like, we just take it so for granted how like cool these little vitamins are and how much they do for us. I love our vitamins. Okay, so coenzyme A. I'll show you what coenzyme A does, but coenzyme A is really built off of vitamin B5. That's vitamin B5 right there, pantothenic acid. Okay, we have an acetyl group over here with our double bonded oxygen and our methyl group right there. And we have a phosphorylated group over here, ribose sugar right there. Look at these phosphate groups. Again, guys, what am I telling you? The phosphate groups over and over again. You will see these negatively charged phosphate groups. These are the docking stations. If to cleave this bond right here, you'll produce a little bit of energy cleaving that bond. It's not ATP, but you're going to produce energy there. And we can see like this oxygen right there, that negatively charged oxygen, and this double bond here, like that will rotate between these different oxygens, right? So this isn't a stable thing. Like those electrons will be moving back and forth, but like this is the docking station. So this is just looking to bond with something, right? Which is why this is a coenzyme, because it has this little excited docking station right here, and coenzyme A right here. So vitamin B5, if somebody asks you, what does vitamin B5 do? It starts off our Krebs cycle. It starts off our energy production cycle. Without acetyl-CoA, coenzyme A, that's vitamin B5, right? We saw that. This whole cycle isn't happening. Nothing's happening here. Okay, we need this. We need vitamin B5. You can also see it here with succinyl-CoA. So this will also contain vitamin B5. But now you know what vitamin B5 does. It starts off the energy production cycle. Simple as that. B6. Okay, B6. Okay, this is how I like to think about B6. B6, I almost think about the 6 as like a muscle, like the 6, almost like a bicep. So pyridoxine 5-phosphate is the active form. Again, phosphate groups, guys. We're always talking about this. The phosphate groups are the active form. Why? Because they act like the docking station. They're negatively charged. They're ready to react. They're ready to bond with a positively charged molecule on the other side and create a reaction. So pyridoxine 5-phosphate is our active form. That's why it's the active form. Now you know that. 1.3 milligrams. Okay, so similar to B1 and B2, we're kind of in that zone. Vitamin B6 turns protein into energy and it makes neurotransmitters. So that's, if somebody asks you, what is vitamin B6? What does it do? You can say it turns protein into energy and it makes neurotransmitters. You know. Okay, so let's just go over this diagram quickly. So where do I want to start on this one? Okay, so amino acids, I think this is important to know. Amino acids basically have this all the same base. They have this nitrogenous base. They have this carboxyl group. And then the R component here, that's what makes amino acids different. So they all have the same base, and then the R component will be different. If it's lysine, if it's cysteine, they'll just be different configurations, but they all have that base. So vitamin B6 comes in, and vitamin B6 is it's really involved in transamination reactions, which means it is moving that nitrogenous base around, removing it or cycling it or moving it to a different position. That's what vitamin B6 does. So the important part here is you have an amino acid. Amino acid has a nitrogenous component, the nitrogen. It also has a carbon component, a carboxyl group is really the way to refer to that. So vitamin B6 can do two things because it's very versatile. Vitamin B6, she's a queen, okay? So she can either remove the nitrogenous base, and then that protein or amino acid can enter into ATP production and glucose synthesis. Again, we don't really want to be using our amino acids for energy production. That means we're probably breaking down muscle. The body might be in a starvation state. That's not ideal. Like, we'd rather be burning fat and carbs if we can, but this is what vitamin B6 does. It is what it is. Or if we remove the carboxyl group and we keep the nitrogen base, we're producing neurotransmitters. So vitamin B6 can either remove the nitrogenous base, and you're going to take that carbon chain and you're going to make energy with it. You're going to produce essentially a glucose product with it. The glucose has 6 carbons, so you'll kind of configure that differently. Or it will remove the carboxyl group and you'll make neurotransmitters. And that's what vitamin B6 does. Now we know, guys. It's so, I feel like you guys are getting this. I just feel it. Okay, so, another important thing that vitamin B6 does. Vitamin B6 is involved when you are breaking down glycogen in the muscle. So this enzyme here, so this lysine group is attached to a larger enzyme that is glycogen phosphorylase. That's the enzyme. So you'll see what we're doing here. So this is PLP, this is vitamin B6, that's what it looks like. You'll see this phosphate group. Here we are again with these phosphate groups. I'm telling you guys, the phosphate groups are where it's at. And you'll see the phosphate group is what's involved in this reaction. So you have glycogen, which is a series of carbohydrate molecules all attached together. It's a storage form of glucose. So your body makes a chain of glucose. But then what if you need to use that for energy? Like, how do you break apart that glycogen molecule? Use vitamin B6. Vitamin B6 comes in, this inorganic phosphate. It basically donates this phosphate molecule to the oh yeah, this is so interesting. So you have this group of glycogen, and you need to exert a little bit of energy to kind of break that bond, because it's a stable structure, right? So you introduce this phosphate group, this negatively charged phosphate group. It'll attach to the positive charge here, and now you've broken that. So that little glucose breaks off from the chain. It has the phosphate group attached, and you have glucose 1-phosphate. And glucose 1-phosphate will it'll eventually turn into glucose 6-phosphate, which will turn into pyruvate, which will be coenzyme A, and that will enter into the Krebs cycle. So what you're doing is you're breaking down this long chain of glucose molecules into an individual glucose that floats around with this little phosphate group, because that phosphate group is ready to react and ready to get in the mix. And that's how vitamin B6 helps us with energy production. It helps us break down glycogen into glucose. And this is vitamin B6 here. Okay, some other nutrients needed for ATP production. Again, I think it's very, very important that if a patient asks us a question about these nutrients, we have an answer for them. We know what these nutrients are doing, right? And, I really appreciate so many of our practitioners, they're coming from, maybe they're medical doctors, maybe you're a physician assistant or a nurse or a chiropractor, and a lot of us, if we're truly honest, our nutrition education and our traditional medical schools, it's just not awesome. Like, we probably have learned a lot of this before, perhaps, but it's just, we had a few hours in third year of medical school or something like that. And but we're working in this realm, and we need to know what these substances do. So again, okay, let's keep it going. We're getting through this. Okay. Magnesium. All right. So magnesium glycinate probably has the broadest uses. It's not going to cause diarrhea. So the citrate molecule dissociates from magnesium more easily. So magnesium citrate, the citrate molecule dissociates really easily. And that's why magnesium can cause diarrhea, because you have this floating magnesium molecule that kind of attracts water to it. And that will cause watery diarrhea. That's the difference between magnesium citrate or magnesium oxide versus magnesium glycinate. Glycinate tightly bonds to magnesium. Glycine is also our smallest amino acid, so it's really easily absorbed. So your body just picks up that glycine molecule, and the magnesium kind of sneaks in, similar to vitamin B5. Calcium pantophenate, right? That the body picks up the calcium in that case, and the B5 kind of slips in, right? So magnesium glycinate, probably our broadest uses. RDA is somewhere between 420 and 320 for women. Magnesium stabilizes your energy carriers. Magnesium, we could do a whole talk just on magnesium. Okay, I won't do that to you guys tonight. Maybe another night, but not tonight. But let's look at magnesium. I feel like magnesium is so cute. It's such a cute mineral. Okay. Well, this is what I mean. Okay, so this is ATP, all right? The ribose sugar, we have these nitrogenous bases over here, and we have these phosphate molecules, right? So this is the energy potential in ATP, right? We break those phosphate bonds. These negatively charged ions, they hate each other. They can't stand each other. They just want to get away from each other. And when they break, they release energy. What does magnesium do? So cute, acts like a chaperone. Comes in there because magnesium is a divalent cation. It has a positive +2 charge. It comes in there and stabilizes our ATP. It's so cute and awesome. So it comes in there and it acts like it, because we can't have ATP just reacting and popping off like fireworks, going crazy, releasing energy. We need to structure this process, right? So magnesium, and I feel like, you know what, guys, we're getting the inside scoop tonight, because I feel like a lot of practitioners, honestly, they don't know this. They wouldn't know this about magnesium. Magnesium acts to stabilize our ATP. Wow. Okay. Doesn't it make sense? These are negatively charged. Magnesium's positively charged. You can see how those two charges go together, right? So magnesium, it still allows for energy potential. Very interestingly, it's not a 3+, We're not using a 3+. I can't remember on the periodic table what our 3+ minerals are, but most of those, I feel like most of those aren't really useful. It's interesting, the divalent cations, that's a very useful mineral set. That's iron and calcium and magnesium. Well, you'll see, we still have energy potential. Like you could break apart this phosphate group, it's still there, but the magnesium is there just stabilizing the other one. So if we dissociate that magnesium, of course, this ATP can start popping off and producing energy left, right, and center. But magnesium acts like a chaperone for our ATP. So cute. I love magnesium so much. Iron. Okay, I want to talk about iron. Iron bisglycinate is easiest on the tummy, similar to magnesium. When you have something bonded to a citrate molecule, that citrate molecule dissociates more easily, and then iron causes the tummy. That's when you get the constipation issue. So most of the traditional irons on the market, if they're not complexed in a glycinate form, they dissociate really easily, and iron, it just causes the constipation and the bloating that people get. So bisglycinate, because glycine, again, being our smallest amino acid, tiniest little, it's just like a little carbon and nitrogen, just teeny tiny, absorbs really, really easily. So iron bisglycinate is going to be easiest on the tummy. So you absorb that glycine molecule, and the iron kind of sneaks in with the glycine molecule. So cute. So 8 milligrams, 18 milligrams for men and women. This is menstruating women. You know, you may have different thoughts about what to prescribe there, but this is the RDA. I'm just giving you the facts, okay? Iron is required for energy production and oxygenation. I wanted to talk about this because most people think about iron only in the context of hemoglobin and only in the context of red blood cells, which is fine. Like, obviously, that's a factor. I'm not even talking about that tonight. Like I said, I'm not talking about anemias tonight. That could be a whole other topic. We can talk about that another time. But look at this. Iron is also needed in the, iron, okay, sorry. I want this slide. Iron is here. It creates this iron sulfide complex. There's actually a cute word for this that I cannot remember, but there's this iron sulfide complex. So not only is iron responsible for our heme folding and for oxygen carrying capacity, which it is, that's fine, but iron is also in this is our electron transport chain. So this is in the membrane of the mitochondria. So you think about the mitochondria, it has a matrix, and then it has like a folded membrane. So in that membrane, which is where we're producing ATP and producing NAD and such, iron is involved in there. So when people are iron deficient, it's not just that they're unable to make red blood cells properly, or they're unable to create hemoglobin properly. It's also that they're experiencing a deficiency in this mitochondrial membrane, in the essential component that we need to produce ATP. So no wonder you're tired when your iron is low, right? Multiple reasons. So iron is here too. I feel like a lot of people don't know that. Copper. Okay, so iron, you need like maybe 18 milligrams a day. Copper is just really a trace mineral. You don't need a lot of it. It almost is like, if iron is like family doctors, where you have a lot of family doctors, it's like copper is like a surgeon or something. It's like it's more of a specialized mineral that your body just uses in key places. I can't explain why. Like, I'm not God, I don't know, but it's just what it is. So copper helps with the energy transfer molecules. So copper is also here. So this is complex 4 in the electron transport chain. So we have those few different like globular proteins that are transferring electrons. Copper is here. So it works with iron. And that's why oftentimes you'll see a good iron supplement will probably have a little bit of copper in, right? Because we need copper too. So that's what copper does. Both iron and copper are involved in the electron transport chain. Now you know. Coenzyme Q10. Okay, we're coming to the end here. Ubiquinone versus ubiquinol. I feel like a lot of people are unsure about the different forms there. There's no real RDA for coenzyme Q10. Typically, you're dosing between 100 and 300 milligrams. That's most common in the research. Coenzyme Q10 is an energy transfer molecule. That's really what it is. It can act as an antioxidant too, and we can see why that is. But let's talk about the difference between ubiquinone and ubiquinol and why one is much more expensive than the other. I don't know if you've noticed that too. I have a health food store attached to my my practice, so I see supplements. I've seen so many supplements over the years, guys, like thousands of supplements. So here's ubiquinone versus ubiquinol, and here's the difference. So, and it's so interesting. It's just chemistry. It's just a little bit of hydrogen ions. So ubiquinol is the reduced form. The reduced form. It's kind of counterintuitive. So when something is reduced, you think of it having less, but what it means is there's a hydrogen ion attached. So when something is reduced, I want you to remember that that actually means the opposite, that there's hydrogen ions attached, right? When something's oxidized, it means those hydrogen ions have left. That's the difference between an oxidized form and a reduced form. Like those are opposites in chemistry. I'm sure you guys have learned all of this before. You're probably like, oh my God, Lydia, organic chemistry, you're doing this to me. I'm doing it to you. Okay, so ubiquinone. Okay, this is ubiquinone. Ubiquinol is the more active form, I will say, but the reason why it's more expensive is because of this hydroxyl group. So this double bonded oxygen is more stable. This hydroxyl group is more reactive. So it costs, from a supplement company perspective, it costs a little bit of money to kind of figure out how to stabilize this molecule because it's more reactive. And that's why ubiquinol is more expensive. Okay, let's talk about coenzyme Q10 and why it gets depleted with statins. I do want to talk about that because so many of our patients are on statins, and a lot of us sometimes forget to supplement with coenzyme Q10, or we might, just if it comes back on a micronutrient panel that it's low. This could be why. So HMG-CoA reductase, CoA, what is that? Coenzyme A, vitamin B5, okay? So again, we're seeing these vitamins. They're all over the place. They're doing the most. Okay, so HMG-CoA reductase. If we're blocking this enzyme, we're blocking cholesterol synthesis. Sure, we're also blocking the production of coenzyme Q10. So that's why statins impact coenzyme Q10 production. Prenylation is the process of taking something that is hydrophilic, meaning it dissolves in water, into something that's hydrophobic. So that's fat soluble. So you'll see with coenzyme Q10 how that prenylation process is important, because coenzyme Q10 is right here. It's right here. This is coenzyme Q10. It's so cute. It's just living in our mitochondrial membranes, hanging out, transferring energy, doing what it does. But you can see why it needs to be hydrophobic. Because this phospholipid bilayer in here, this is the phosphate group, that little ball, and then the chains will be the lipids. So coenzyme Q10 really needs to be fat soluble because it's sitting within that fatty layer, right? So what our body does is it prenylates a substrate to make it very fat soluble. So that's coenzyme Q10 right there. And you can see, important for energy transfer. Without coenzyme Q10, we're not doing well. And that's a problem with statins. We can correct for it, but this is why. And this is why sometimes people have muscle soreness and weakness and they don't feel great on statins. Partly, there might be a variety of reasons, but if your coenzyme Q10 is depleted, we can see how important this is. And now we know what coenzyme Q10 does. It's right involved in the electron transport chain. Alpha lipoic acid. Okay, this is my last one. Alpha lipoic acid, which is an antioxidant. And I'm going to show you what an antioxidant means, because I feel like a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm taking antioxidants. And on the CNA panel, I know they test for antioxidants. So let's just have a fundamental understanding of what an antioxidant is once and for all. Because once we talk about this, you'll know forever. You're going to know forever. Okay, so as an antioxidant, alpha lipoic acid helps protect our cells, and it also helps with energy production. Okay, so alpha lipoic acid is involved in two different places in terms of energy production. It's important for the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. So it brings pyruvate, which is kind of outside the mitochondrial cell, into it helps convert to acetyl-CoA. And acetyl-CoA, coenzyme A, that was vitamin B5, coenzyme, so that gets the cycle going. Without coenzyme QA, your Krebs cycle, it's not going, it's not running, it's shut down, right? So we need alpha lipoic acid to drive that process. It also helps with alpha ketoglutarate. So in the citric acid cycle, it goes from alpha ketoglutarate to alpha succinate. I mean, it's a succinate, I think that's next. So that little part of the citric acid cycle is run also by alpha lipoic acid. Okay, so this is what alpha lipoic acid looks like. This is lipoic acid. This is dihydrolipoic acid. This is what an antioxidant is. What is an antioxidant? For the love of God, we need to know this, right? Sometimes we use these words and it's like, do I really even know what this means? Okay, so an antioxidant. An antioxidant is something that will accept or donate electrons. It has nothing to do necessarily with oxygen. Like, okay, oxygen can accept and donate electrons, fine, but like, it's not that every antioxidant has to do with oxygen, all right? It's just a product that can accept and donate electrons. I like to think about an antioxidant. Okay, have you had okay, I want you to think back to university, and you have that friend that when they have a couple drinks, they just are very negative and they end up in some sort of drama or some sort of argument or some sort of fight or something like that. We all have that friend that they just cannot get along with people, right? An antioxidant comes in and it neutralizes the negativity. That's when an antioxidant, I suspect a lot of us are probably antioxidants in our friend groups, we're able to like quell when some drama is going down. We come in there and we neutralize a problem. So with alpha lipoic acid, it has this disulfide bond. And if there's some drama happening, what it will do is it will accept a hydrogen ion to neutralize the reaction. It'll break apart this sulfide bond. You can see it here, it's broken apart. And that's what an antioxidant is. It's an electron acceptor. Krebs cycle, yes. Okay, alpha lipoic acid is here. Alpha glutaric acid, succinyl-CoA. It's in this reaction here. And it also drives acetyl-CoA, right? So again, this is vitamin B5. NAD, what's that? Vitamin B3. FAD, what's that? Vitamin B2. Okay, we know these things now. We know this. I love this for us. Okay, CNA, supplements, PDFs. Let's look at the portal. Okay, so basically what I love about CSS is that you can run a micronutrient panel and you can easily formulate product. Actually, let me go back. Okay, yeah, sorry. I want to share this. Okay, so when you run your CNA test, what I want for you is, or what I don't want for you is to sit there and be like, okay, my patient is deficient in these key nutrients. What am I going to do? Am I going to prescribe 2 milligrams of vitamin B2 and 5 milligrams of vitamin B6? You don't have time for that. You truly, truly do not have time for that. So what you can do, what I'd love for you to do is to click here, order here, and go over to Vitamin Lab, and we will formulate a product for you using our algorithm that we've kind of figured out with CSS, the powers that be. We will formulate a product for you, and you can edit it. It's not like you don't have power over what you're going to prescribe, but we will pull out the different deficiencies and we will formulate a product for you so that you don't have to sit there, or heaven forbid, I'm a clinician too, guys, and I just don't want this for us, where we run these expensive tests and then we prescribe a multivitamin. Oh my God, no. Our patients are not coming to us because they want a multivitamin. They could buy that on Amazon. They are not paying you X number of hundreds of dollars an hour or whatever to prescribe them a multivitamin. So if you are going to run these tests, please consider doing the personalized supplement. It just wraps up the circle of care. It's the logical next step. So you just click here, order here, basically, and you can see the Vitamin Lab product. If you don't like it, don't order it. You don't have to, but at least it gives you a starting point, or you can kind of see what a product would look like pulling out from the different deficiencies. So for example, I just kind of created a little something here. So, okay, so say we're pulling out deficiencies. Now we have this Vitamin Lab product. We can see these different nutrients that are pulled out, and now you can explain what these different nutrients do. You know that coenzyme Q10 is involved in the electron transport chain. You know that alpha lipoic acid is responsible for pyruvate to coenzyme A, and it also drives part of the citric acid cycle. If somebody asks you what vitamin B2 does, you know it's part of flavin, adenine dinucleotide. You know it's an energy carrying molecule. If somebody asks you about vitamin B1, you know it helps bring energy into the cell, whether that's from protein or carbohydrates. It facilitates that reaction. You know this stuff now, and that's what I want for you. We can all be experts in this. It's not, we've done harder things. You've done harder things than this. We can figure this out. Okay, so basically you just click here and you order from Vitamin Lab, or you formulate a product and you decide if you want to order. You want to order it, great. You don't, great, no problem. But at least you're not sitting there trying to formulate something from scratch. Like who can, you don't have time for that. You truly do not. Okay, so how does this integration work for patients? I really love this case study. This is one of our practitioners. It's a redacted study. So she had a 57-year-old, you don't have to read all this, I'll explain it to you. So she had a 57-year-old, he owns a bar, and he's healthy, but he lives the nightlife, right? He owns a bar. So we did the targeted test, and they did the CNA test, and what we could see, lots of insufficiencies, blah, blah, blah. After a year, she repeated the test, and a lot of the nutrients were sufficient. You'll see everything was in the green here. So taking the Vitamin Lab, what she did was she formulated, she created a Vitamin Lab product. He was diligent about it. He was good with his supplement, and he took it for an entire year. And yeah, all of his things became sufficient. So that's great. That's what we're here for. So personalized formulas, they really benefit your patient such that you're not kind of disappointing people, quite frankly, by prescribing a multivitamin when people are paying hundreds of dollars for a test. I'm just going to, between us, we're not doing that. So you get to personalize. You can also private label with Vitamin Lab, where you can put your own brand on things. And a lot of us have spent quite a bit of time and money determining our brand for our clinic, and we've paid the designer, and we've done all the things. We have a beautiful website. So to close the loop, put your label on your own products. You get to make your own products. This is so incredible. Like never before have we been able to do this. It's convenient. Everything's all in one. They don't have to take a B complex here and alpha lipoic acid here and coenzyme Q10 here. You can combine everything in one, and it just creates a good connection. You run the test and then you formulate a product. It's just like Amy and I talk about. It's just a no-brainer. And it's revenue for you. You can make a profit of your supplements, which you should, right? So instead of patients like price checking and going on Amazon and ordering something, and after all the time and effort that you put into prescribe, they're not even buying your product. So in this case, like you get to sell your product to people. It gets to be flexible. You can determine your doses. It's very exclusive. It's very convenient for people. They have it all in one. Here's my product. You can kind of see it here. I don't know, my Dr. Lydia logo. So it's like you can private label your own things. Like it's just like, it's cool. Like do it. You should have your own brand. Of course you should. And yeah, so sign up for a demo. Come over. If you're not with Vitamin Lab already, every new practitioner gets a $100 credit with us. Because you're on the webinar, you get an extra $25. So you can formulate a product, try it for yourself. If you've never been with Vitamin Lab before, try it for yourself. If you have been with Vitamin Lab before, we're still going to give you the $25 credit. So you still get that for your next order. Just reach out to me or Carolina, your account manager, whoever, and we'll apply the credit for you. So you get a little discount there. And yeah, we love working with you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to all my nutritional biochemistry talk tonight. I hope you guys feel more comfortable with your energy producing molecules and just being able to rattle it off your tongue and know what these things do, because I just think it's really, really important. If you have any questions for me, I am here looking at the chat in the Q&A. Is it a blood draw? Logistics in Canada. It is a blood draw, and I'm Canadian too. And so I would need Amy to answer that one, whether or not it's available in Canada. I feel like it is, but I would need Amy to kind of chime in on that. I feel like Amy might be on this call, but it is a blood draw. Yeah, it does require that. I wonder what province you're in, if you want to comment on what province, because sometimes there's different regulations, but I just really appreciate everybody. Just BC, she's in BC. Oh, you have such good regulations in BC. I'm in Ontario. I'm kind of jealous. Like BC's got like a lot of good things going on. Karina, I see you there. I'm going to get back to you on that one. I'll ask the CSS peeps what the opportunity is like there. But yeah, really appreciate you guys sticking with me. I'm like hot and like sweating. I get so excited talking about this stuff. Thank you so much for being nerdy with me. I love talking about this stuff. If you have questions about any of your products, or you want to work with Vitamin Lab, you're already working with Vitamin Lab, just reach out to myself or your account manager, Carolina. We're happy to get you set up. And yeah, love you guys. Love our Vitamin Lab peeps. You guys are awesome. You're at the top of your game. Next webinar. What's going to be our next topic? I don't know. I'm always like last Thursday of the month. That's what I am. And I haven't decided yet what our next topic is. Like, there's a few things that came up, because in doing this, I was like, okay, we need to talk about thyroid, we need to talk about anemias, and we need to talk about sleep. Like, those three things came up, and like all of those are big topics. My last webinar was about men's health. Really love talking about that. I love diving into the men's health piece, because, okay, this is like a fun fact. A lot of men's health, people think, if we're having erectile dysfunction, it's testosterone related. Like, people need to boost their testosterone, et cetera, et cetera. But 70% of erectile problems with men are due to blood vessel and circulation issues. And when you look at blood vessel sizes, so if your cardiac blood vessels are like this, your kidney blood vessels are like this, and the penis blood vessels are like this, teeny, tiny, small, right? So the first sign that somebody is having blood vessel issues is actually an erectile problem, because those are the tiniest blood vessels. And then if those get occluded, okay, then you're getting kidney occlusion. That would be the next step. And then you're having cardiac occlusion, which, okay, we're having MIs, and with that, that's a heart attack issue, right? So it's so interesting to me that like we tend to treat the penis like we're just all about like taking the Cialis and blah, blah, blah. But really, that's the canary in the coal mine. That's the first sign that your patient is having blood vessel issues, is erectile dysfunction. So we really, really need to be asking our patients about that. That's another topic for another day. Not sure how we ended up talking about penises tonight, but here we are. Okay, any previous webinars available online? Yes, they're all on our YouTube channel. How is this product different than a multivitamin other than its personalized doses? Does it make a difference practically? Yeah, that's a really good question. How is this product different than a multivitamin? It's targeted. So you're replacing the nutrients that people need, and you can replace them in higher doses. So it tends to be with multivitamins. Most multivitamins are kind of dosed sort of mediocre, I would say, like, and some of them are on the lower end. And there's not that much research evidence for multivitamins. Like whenever they're researched, it's always so disappointing. Like basically people do not feel better taking a multivitamin, but people actually feel better taking a vitamin lab product. And we know this partly because, well, we ask people, we do research, and we get good feedback from people. And also because, you know, our vitamins cost a little bit more. Like we're not the same price as a multivitamin. So in order for people to continue taking it, it needs to be moving the needle on people's health. So I think what was great about that before and after study is we can see micronutrient deficiencies are being corrected. But yeah, hey, if you want to use a multivitamin, you know, who am I to tell you not to? Like, you go ahead, and if you're getting great results, more power to you, no problem. But Vitamin Lab, we're really targeting. It really sets you apart as a practitioner, I think, because a lot of our patients, again, they're not paying us hundreds of dollars to tell them to take a multivitamin. Like, I don't know, maybe we're all different, but I know that personally wouldn't work for me. The personalized dosing, does it make a difference practically? Yes, because also further to this, we have the multi-nutrients, whatever, but we also have antioxidants in the product, and we can also add herbs. So if you have a person who is, say, perimenopausal, or they're not sleeping well or something like that, you can create a targeted nutrient, but then you can add in herbs for sleep. You can add in GABA, you could add in theanine, you could add in lemon balm, you can add in sage, you can add in black cohosh. So what you're creating is a product that's not just nutrients, that's also like targeted herbs and other botanicals and antioxidants and things of that nature. So it's much more than a multivitamin, because we have over 250 different ingredients, right? So you can go get wild and crazy and make your own cool things. So yeah, it's not just vitamins and minerals. We have those clearly, but on top of it, you can really, particularly if you have patients that are on multiple things, so you could create a multi-nutrient. And if they have osteoarthritis, you could add in some glucosamine and some chondroitin and some turmeric and some black pepper and create a product that's just not just a multivitamin. How accurate are these lab tests? I heard that testing vitamins can be challenging because it may not be accurate reflection of what's going on in the body. Yeah. Okay. That is a worthwhile thing to discuss, which is, okay, so part of the problem with serum measurements is that it's measuring what is floating around in the bloodstream. So typical, like just regular blood tests, you're going to test for vitamin B12. It's looking at what's floating around in the bloodstream. As we can see from tonight's presentation, the action of the vitamin is inside the cell, right? It's not floating around in the bloodstream, it's inside the cell. So really what I like about the CNA is that it's a functional test. So they basically from my understanding, they culture a cell, they introduce a substrate and see how the cell reacts to having that substrate introduced. Amy would be able to speak to this better than I can, but really what you're looking at is more of a functional test with the CNA. In terms of how does the cell react to having a substrate added to it, having vitamin B1 added to it, having an antioxidant, pycnogenol, or a berry or something added to the cell. What is the reaction that you're getting from the cell? So it's much more than just a serum measurement. That being said, also, what I didn't realize for the longest time, this may be kind of embarrassing to admit, but like I didn't realize that serum tests were just set at what is generally found in the population. So when you're looking at like what is normal, say, it's just generally speaking what they find to be normal. So if it's vitamin B12, it's like, it's not what's optimal necessarily. I always thought blood tests would be like, okay, this is the optimal measurement of like vitamin B12, this is what I need. But what they do is they aggregate information from the general population, and they're like, and this is what they set normal as. But we have quite a sick population, right? So I'm not sure, like normal doesn't necessarily mean optimal, right? So that's another, so the reference ranges as well for nutrients aren't set at what is perhaps best for the patient. So there's also that. Yeah, these are all good questions. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody's questions tonight. I probably kept you over time. If you have further questions, just reach out. My name's Lydia. There's also Carolina. We're the two account managers here at Vitamin Lab, and we're here to answer questions. We're here to help, and we're here to make you freaking rock star at prescribing your own supplements. We want you guys to have your own brand on things and be creating products and just feel really confident in what you're doing. And we love you guys so much. And thank you so much for attending tonight's webinar.